Let's talk about something every woman has felt, but rarely says out loud. That quiet ache when a man who once couldn't get enough of you suddenly grows distant. You start questioning everything. Was it something you said? Did you do too much or maybe not enough? You replay the moments, the messages, the silences. But here's the truth. This isn't about him disappearing. It's about you rediscovering your power. If you've ever searched for real relationship advice for women, wondered why men pull away, or looked for dating tips for women that actually work, this is your moment. This isn't about playing games. It's about female empowerment in relationships, about learning to stop chasing men and start understanding men from a place of self-love and confidence. It's about transforming toxic relationship recovery into the foundation of your high-value woman mindset. Let's dive deep into 8 truths that will make him miss you. Not because you're manipulating him, but because you've stepped back into the radiant, grounded woman he fell for in the first place. You want to know what really makes a man start missing you again? It's not the perfectly worded text or some trick you found online. It's space. Space is power. I mean that literally. When you pull your energy back, when you stop trying to convince someone to care, when you stop over-explaining your worth, you become magnetic. See, we've been taught to chase, to fix, to prove, to overcompensate. But here's the deal. The more you chase, the faster he runs. It's not because he's cruel or because something's wrong with you. It's because chasing energy feels desperate, and desperation repels attraction. When you stop chasing and start focusing on yourself, you immediately flip the script. You go from being the pursuer to being the prize, and that's when everything changes. Think about it. When you're constantly available, constantly reaching out, constantly trying to keep him interested, you teach him that he doesn't have to do anything to earn you. You've made yourself the constant, the predictable. But when you pull back, when you go quiet, when you stop explaining and start observing, you introduce uncertainty. And uncertainty is what wakes a man up. He starts to wonder what you're doing, who you're thinking about, what changed. He starts to miss the energy he took for granted. That's human nature. We don't value what's always there. We value what we could lose. The hardest part? Staying still. Because every fiber in your body will scream to reach out, to fix it, to make sure he still cares. But that urge, that's your fear talking. That's the little voice that doesn't trust your worth. You've got to learn to sit with it, breathe through it. Let the silence do the work for you. When you stop reacting, you take back control. Because here's the truth. A man doesn't miss the woman who keeps chasing him. He misses the woman who suddenly stops, the one who starts living her life without him in the center of it. So you stop over-texting. You stop checking his social media. You stop trying to decode every silence. You shift your focus back to you. You go out. You laugh. You make new plans. You rediscover the things that make you feel alive. And little by little, that energy builds again. That quiet confidence, that lightness, that spark that he first fell for. And that's when he notices. Not because you did anything for him, but because you finally did something for yourself. That's the power of pulling back. It's not punishment. It's protection. It's saying, I'm not chasing anyone who's unsure about me. I'm investing in the one person who's been with me through it all, myself. And let me tell you something. When you pull back not out of anger, but out of peace, you become unforgettable. Because peace is rare. A woman who's grounded, calm, and self-assured in the face of distance. That's magnetic. That's the energy that makes people turn their heads. That's what makes a man start thinking, wait, what's going on? Why does she feel different? It's not mystery. It's mastery over your emotions, over your reactions, over your power. And that's the kind of woman who's impossible to replace. Now let's talk about something most women forget. The woman you were before him. You know her. The one who laughed louder, smiled easier, didn't hesitate to dream big. The one who didn't wait for a text to validate her day. She's still in there, buried under the weight of trying too hard for someone who forgot your worth. You've got to bring her back. You've got to remember that you were someone before him, and you'll be someone after him. That's where the magic begins. Because the second you stop centering your world around him, he starts to feel the absence of your energy. Men fall in love with women who have lives that don't revolve around them. It's true. Independence is intoxicating. When you start rebuilding your life, going out, pursuing passions, reconnecting with friends, setting new goals, you shift your energy completely. You become expansive again. You stop waiting and you start living. And that energy? It's irresistible, because you're no longer showing up as the woman who needs him. You're showing up as the woman who chooses him, and that's a completely different vibration. Here's what happens next. He starts noticing that you're not as responsive. You're not as accessible. You're not as predictable. And in that space, curiosity grows. He starts to miss your laugh, your warmth, the way your presence used to make him feel. But this time, he's the one wondering. That's the power of rediscovery. You're not waiting for him to find you. You're finding yourself. And when you do, he can feel it, even from a distance. It's funny. We spend so much time trying to make someone love us again, when the truth is, the fastest way to make them chase you is to fall in love with yourself again. To fill your own cup so full that you overflow. To radiate peace, purpose, and joy so brightly that everyone who meets you feels it. Because when you're lit up from the inside, you don't need anyone to complete you. And that confidence, that wholeness, that independence, that's what draws him back. Not because you're chasing, because you've stopped. Because you finally remembered who you are. You're not the woman who begs to be seen. You're the woman who knows she's worth being seen by the right person. You're not the one who waits for the phone to ring. You're the one out there building a life so full that missing you becomes inevitable. When you return to your power, the dynamic changes entirely. He's no longer the center of your story. You are. And that's the moment everything starts to shift. Because when a woman stands tall in her own light, the world, and yes, even the man who pulled away, can't help but notice. Emotional control is everything. It's the difference between begging for attention and commanding respect. The moment you let someone else dictate your emotional state, you hand them your power. And that's exactly what happens when a man starts to pull away. You feel it, and panic hits. You start wondering what you did wrong, replaying conversations, scanning messages, searching for clues. Your brain goes into survival mode, and suddenly you're reacting from fear instead of strength. That's when you start doing too much. Texting first, over-explaining, trying to fix what isn't even yours to fix. And let's be honest, it never works. It pushes him further away because panic energy feels heavy. But when you hold your emotional ground, when you stay calm and steady no matter what he does, that's when you become magnetic again. See, emotional control isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about mastering how you respond. You can still love someone and not let their distance throw you off balance. You can feel the sting of uncertainty and still choose peace. That's real strength. When a man pulls away, he's testing. Not consciously, but emotionally. He's seeing how you'll react. If you crumble, chase, or lash out, he subconsciously registers that your peace depends on him. But if you stay calm, focused, grounded, it shifts the dynamic completely. Because suddenly, he realizes you're not playing emotional ping pong. You're steady, you're safe. You're someone who doesn't need chaos to feel connection. Here's the truth. Calm energy is rare. And in relationships, it's powerful. When you can stay centered while someone else acts distant, it creates contrast. It makes him feel the weight of his own inconsistency. He starts to sense that your world doesn't collapse when he disappears. That's when he starts thinking, wait a minute, she's different. She's not reacting the way others did. That's the quiet confidence that makes him respect you more. You need to remind yourself in those moments, you are not losing anything by staying silent. You're gaining clarity. You're giving yourself space to see if he's truly aligned with you, or just comfortable with your attention. Emotional control is about choosing yourself in the moment you most want to choose him. It's about saying, I'm not going to let your behavior decide my mood, my worth, or my energy today. Because when you stay in control of your emotions, you become untouchable. And yes, it takes practice. You'll want to reach out. You'll want to check in. But every time you hold back, you strengthen your emotional muscles. Every time you pause before reacting, you prove to yourself that you're capable of protecting your peace. That self-control builds confidence. And confidence is the kind of energy that people feel. They feel it when you walk in the room, when you speak, when you simply exist. It's the energy that says, I know who I am, and I don't need to chase anyone to prove it. That's the energy that makes people, including men, chase you. If you keep tolerating inconsistency, if you keep showing up for people who don't show up for you, you're reinforcing a message that you'll always be available no matter how you're treated. But when you start raising your standards, when you start honoring your own time, your own emotions, your own energy, you create a new baseline. And people feel that shift immediately. You don't even have to say anything. Your energy starts saying, this is what I allow, and this is what I don't. That's the mirror. The way you love yourself teaches others how to love you. Think about it. When you start setting boundaries, when you start saying no to things that drain you, when you stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve access to you, everything around you starts to shift. Because you're not operating from lack anymore. You're operating from alignment. You're no longer begging for validation. You're validating yourself through your actions. That's when men start treating you differently. They sense your self-respect. They see that you're not the type of woman who sticks around when she's being taken for granted. That's when they start showing up with effort, with intention, with presence, because your energy demands it. The mirror effect also forces you to look at your patterns. Are you giving too much too soon? Are you trying to earn love instead of simply receiving it? Are you ignoring red flags because you're afraid to be alone? These are hard questions, but they're the ones that lead to transformation. Because when you start changing how you treat yourself, you stop attracting the kind of men who thrive on your insecurities. You start attracting the kind who match your peace, not your pain. And it's not about being perfect. It's about awareness and accountability. It's about recognizing when you're slipping into old habits, overgiving, overthinking, over-explaining, and stopping yourself mid-pattern. It's about catching that moment when you're tempted to text him first just to feel close again, and instead, you take a deep breath and say, "No, I choose me this time." That's how you rewrite your story. That's how you build a new standard for love. When you honor yourself consistently, you become a mirror that reflects strength, value, and confidence. And when a man looks at that, he's either inspired to rise to meet it or he fades away. Either way, you win, because you've stopped trying to make someone choose you, and you've started choosing yourself. That's the kind of energy that can't be ignored. That's what makes him miss you, respect you, and ultimately, chase you. Not because you begged for it, but because you became the kind of woman whose presence is unforgettable, and whose absence speaks volumes. Let's be real. Mystery is magnetic. It's not about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about reclaiming the space that makes you intriguing again. When you're constantly available, constantly updating, constantly explaining, you strip away the natural curiosity that keeps attraction alive. The truth is, people crave what they can't completely predict. When a man knows every move you're going to make, there's nothing left to chase. But when you start living your life without feeling the need to broadcast every second or seek reassurance, something changes. You become unpredictable in the best possible way. You become someone he can't quite figure out. And that's what reignites his interest. When you start holding parts of yourself sacred, when you stop oversharing and start keeping some things just for you, you create emotional space. And that space makes people wonder, what's she doing? Who's she becoming? Why does she feel so different? That sense of mystery isn't manipulation, it's magnetism. It's energy. It's you stepping back into your power by recognizing that not everyone deserves full access to you all the time. You get to decide who gets to know your heart, your plans, your energy. When you do that, you protect your power instead of giving it away. Most women think being mysterious means being distant or cold. No. It means being selective. It means not letting your world revolve around anyone who hasn't earned that privilege. It means not responding instantly every time he reaches out. It means being comfortable with silence, even when your ego wants to fill it. It's about becoming the kind of woman who's so fulfilled by her own life that she doesn't need someone else to keep her entertained. When you build that kind of independence, your energy changes. You walk differently. You speak differently. You radiate confidence without even trying. And that's when he starts to feel it. He starts to feel your absence. Not just because you're gone, but because you're glowing again. You're not trying to pull him back anymore. You're pulling yourself forward. You're busy. You're growing. You're laughing. You're reconnecting with the world in a way that has nothing to do with him. That's what creates mystery, your evolution. When he can't predict your next move, when he sees you thriving in ways that don't involve him, that's when the curiosity starts to burn. He'll wonder what changed. He'll miss that version of you that used to orbit around him. But what he won't realize at first is that this new version, the one that doesn't need him, is even more captivating. It's human nature to be drawn to what we can't fully have. So when you stop making yourself so accessible, you become something valuable again. Scarcity creates value, and when your energy becomes rare, it becomes precious. Let him feel the silence. Let him feel your absence, not as punishment, but as a reminder that your attention is a gift, and not everyone gets to keep it. That's not being cruel. That's being powerful, because you're no longer chasing, you're choosing. And that choice, that self-assurance, that unshakable calm, that's what keeps people coming back. But here's where it goes deeper. It's not just about creating mystery through silence. It's about reigniting your inner flame. Because that spark, that life force that makes you radiant, that's the real reason people are drawn to you. When you've been in a relationship where you've overgiven, overextended, or tried to keep the peace, you start to dim that light without realizing it. You stop doing the things that make you feel alive. You start shrinking, toning yourself down, trying to fit into what you think will make him stay. But love doesn't grow in small spaces. It grows when you expand. So if you want him to miss you, you've got to bring that light back. You've got to remember what sets your soul on fire, what makes you laugh until your stomach hurts, what makes you lose track of time. What have you been neglecting because you were too busy worrying about him? That's what you need to return to, because when you start pouring into yourself again, that energy becomes unstoppable. You'll start attracting opportunities, people, joy, not because you're chasing them, but because you're aligned again. You're back in your flow. And men, they feel that. They feel when your focus shifts from them to yourself. They might not know why, but they feel it. They feel that energy, and suddenly they start chasing it again. And I'm not talking about surface-level glow-ups. I'm talking about the kind of transformation that comes from within. When you start working on your confidence, your mindset, your peace, everything about you changes. You start walking into rooms differently. You start speaking with more conviction. You start setting boundaries without guilt. You start smiling from a place of genuine self-contentment, not performance. And that's what makes people, including the man who pulled away, look at you differently. Reigniting your inner flame isn't about showing him what he lost. It's about reminding yourself of what you almost forgot you had. When you start living for yourself again, fully, unapologetically, you become magnetic. You stop waiting for validation and start generating it. You stop asking, "Why doesn't he see my worth?" and start saying, "How did I forget my worth?" That's the shift that changes everything. A woman who glows from within doesn't need to chase anyone. Her light draws the right people to her naturally. When you start living in that energy, when you're fueled by your own purpose, you'll notice something incredible. The people who once took you for granted start paying attention again. The ones who doubted your value start to see it. But this time, you're not waiting for their recognition. You're not dimming your light to keep their attention. You're shining because that's who you are. When you stop chasing and start glowing, everything flips. You stop being the woman who needs to be noticed, and you become the woman who's impossible to ignore. Because true attraction isn't built on trying to prove your worth. It's built on embodying it. And when you live from that space, when you let that inner fire burn unapologetically, you don't just make him miss you. You make yourself proud again. You want to know what's truly magnetic? Boundaries. A woman with boundaries doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't break herself in half to keep someone else whole. She knows her worth down to her bones, and that energy is intoxicating. Because boundaries say, "I respect myself." And when you respect yourself, people have no choice but to follow suit. A lot of women confuse boundaries with walls, but they're not the same thing. Walls keep everyone out. Boundaries teach people how to come in. And if someone can't respect those lines, that's not your loss. It's their limitation. The truth is, boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about controlling yourself, your time, your energy, your peace. When you stop tolerating inconsistency, when you stop excusing red flags, when you stop allowing behavior that leaves you anxious or questioning your value, you start to reclaim your life. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you reinforce, and what you walk away from. Every time you say, "No, that doesn't work for me," you're building a stronger foundation of self-respect. And let me tell you something. Nothing makes a man sit up straighter than a woman who's unafraid to say no. A woman with boundaries is a challenge, and not in a manipulative way. It's because she's clear. Her yes means something because it's backed by self-respect. When you stop being easily swayed, when you stop trying to keep the peace at the expense of your own peace, you become a force. You become someone who can't be taken lightly. Men chase what they respect, not what they can control. And a woman who enforces her standards without guilt, she's unforgettable. The reason boundaries are so powerful is because they come from a place of emotional maturity. You're not punishing anyone. You're protecting yourself. You're saying, I've worked too hard on my peace to hand it over carelessly. That kind of calm confidence radiates. It tells the world you're done settling for half effort, half love, half commitment. And here's the kicker. The moment you start living by that truth, people either rise to meet you or fall away. And both outcomes are blessings. The ones who can't handle your boundaries reveal they were never capable of loving you fully anyway. The ones who can respect them, they step up, and let's be honest, it's not easy. Setting boundaries feels uncomfortable at first. You'll worry you're being mean or too much. But that's not truth speaking. That's guilt, born from years of people-pleasing. You've been conditioned to think love means sacrifice, but real love doesn't ask you to shrink. Boundaries aren't selfish. They're self-love in action. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you say yes to something that fuels you. Every time you hold a line, you teach yourself that you are worth protecting. And that's what changes the game. Because when a man sees that you have standards and you're not afraid to lose him, that's when he realizes what he stands to lose. That's what flips the dynamic. Because now, instead of you chasing reassurance, he's chasing connection. Instead of you proving your worth, he's earning your time. That's the energy shift that happens when you decide your peace is non-negotiable. You stop being afraid of losing people and start being afraid of losing yourself. And that shift, that inner knowing that you are enough, makes you magnetic beyond words. And then comes the hardest, most liberating truth of all. You have to let go to get him back. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You stop gripping so tightly that you squeeze the life out of your own joy. You stop needing validation to feel seen. Because the moment you release control, everything changes. Detachment is faith in motion. It's saying, I trust that what's meant for me won't require me to chase, beg, or bend. When you truly let go, you're not giving up. You're giving over. You're releasing the illusion that you can force timing, feelings, or outcomes. You're saying, I'm okay either way. That energy is powerful, because when you no longer need him, you become free. And nothing makes someone miss you more than your peace. When a woman detaches with grace, not bitterness, not games, just quiet confidence, it drives a man to reflect. He starts to realize your attention wasn't guaranteed. He starts to miss your presence, your warmth, your stability. But more importantly, you start to feel lighter. You stop waiting for someone to choose you and start choosing yourself. Letting go doesn't mean deleting the memories or pretending you don't care. It means you care about yourself more than you care about keeping someone who isn't meeting you halfway. It means you stop fighting for something that should have been effortless. It's about allowing things to unfold naturally instead of forcing them. And that's when the universe steps in, because detachment creates space. Space for him to reflect. Space for you to heal. Space for something better to take root. When you let go, you shift the energy completely. You move from desperation to power, from fear to freedom. You start to glow differently. People can see it in your eyes, in your posture, in the way you carry yourself. Because you're no longer chasing love, you've become it. You start to realize that peace feels better than control, and self-worth feels better than being chosen. And ironically, that's when everything you wanted starts to find its way back to you. Because the energy of need pushes things away, but the energy of trust pulls them in. And here's the beautiful thing. When you let go, you make room for something real. If he's meant to come back, he will. But this time, you'll be different. You won't be the woman who waits, who doubts, who tries to prove her worth. You'll be the woman who knows her value, who stands tall, who chooses herself first every time. And that's the version of you that he'll miss most. The one who finally stopped chasing and started shining. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, is more attractive than a woman who knows she's the prize and refuses to settle for anything less. If this message hit you deep, it's because your intuition recognizes the truth. You don't need to chase anyone. You just need to remember who you are. So tell me in the comments, which of these 8 truths hit home the hardest? I read every single one because this space is for women who are done settling, done chasing, and ready to rise. If this resonated, hit that like, share it with a friend who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more powerful insights on love, confidence, and emotional freedom. And before you go, drop a comment below on what topic you want me to break down next. Let's keep this conversation real, raw, and transformational. You deserve the kind of love that never makes you forget your worth. And it starts right here, with you.